childlike drawing
No,
of a
go back to the Pumbaa
porcupine
one.
and a screenshot of Kakariko grave.
So that's really good with the Pumbaa. This is like Ben drowned before Ben drowned. This is like the anytime someone tries to say anything scary about a game, like, oh, was it Ben in your game? But I'm gonna start telling people El Pumbaa is in your game. This was called the most obscure Zelda rumor that may hold some truth. I really don't know anything besides it's something about a pig, like El Puerco or something. So I'm really interested in this. Oh, and I'm telling you, this is the video essay song for any Zelda video essay.
When it comes to myths, rumors, and urban legends in Zelda, Ocarina of Time stands tall as the undisputed champion, and it's not even close. For one reason or another, this game in particular became the subject of so many famous rumors and myths, it's actually kind of nuts.
Oh, it says Zelda
Beating
Universe?
the Running Man, the mythical Sky Temple, the Desert Pyramid, unfreezing Zora's Domain, the Overture of Sages, the fabled Unicorn Fountain, and of course, most famously, obtained...
Yeah, that was the Unicorn Fountain here. Sorry, I'm like going to be pause master all over. The Unicorn Fountain, and then the song where it was like the hoax that would that was supposed to be the thing that gets you to the light temple that would finally fill in the empty space in your pause menu. And then I think some of these screenshots are actually not from the hoax. These are from the ROM hack that I think ZFG and someone else made to basically recreate the rumors as an actual ROM hack, which is really cool. Okay, let's actually watch the video.
Of Sages, the fabled Unicorn Fountain, and of course, most famously, obtaining the Triforce, which on its own had like a million different rumors attached to it regarding how to actually find it.
Yeah.
Like bombing every gossip stone, or lighting a series of torches across Hyrule in a specific order, or some other convoluted task or series of tasks. If you experienced Ocarina of Time in the early days, before data mining put most of these stories to rest once and for all, there's a fairly good chance that you too were duped by one of these rumors.
Yeah.
Or at the very least heard about them somewhere. That's how widespread and persistent they were.
I tried some of them.
Now, the subject we're focusing on today is nothing like that, though. As opposed to the rumors I just listed, this one never really went viral within the Zelda community in any sense of the word, and for the most part barely managed to spread beyond the message boards and old Zelda forums it is said to originate from. In fact, because of its age and the way old web forums handled their archiving back in the day, the original story of El Puerco is actually considered to be lost media at this point, as both the topic that started it and the users who were involved have all been purged from the internet, never to be seen or heard from again.
So
something
actual
that
lost
unfortunately
mystery.
even the Wayback Machine cannot fix. All that remains now is a short excerpt on the Urban Legends wiki page, and the occasional post or stray comment on places like GameFAQs and Reddit, keeping the El Puerco myth alive to some degree.
Yeah, I've literally never heard of
this. It's about
this.
as obscure as a Zelda rumor can get, so we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel with this one. But what's interesting about it to me is that, unlike the aforementioned myths, which have no basis in truth whatsoever, this one still has its proponents who postulate that whatever the OP saw back in the 2000s was in fact a genuine experience. A real sighting that could have been mistaken for something
actually
else,
in-game.
and was subsequently misconstrued and distorted, turning it into the urban legend it is now. So today, let's take a look at this obscure and largely forgotten internet rumor known only as El Puerco.
I like when they do edits like this, because when they cut like really normal game footage with something all fucked up like this. There's a sorry, totally off topic again. There's a Germa edit where it's like his compilation of him fighting Melania, and it all looks like in-game footage, but then the guy editing it, like, for like 5 seconds, cut in footage of Melania doing like a Fortnite dance, but it looks just like it's part of the game, so it just jump scares you like crazy. That was a really good one. I just wanted to tell that story, that's why I brought that up.
We'll look at the claims that were made, trace back the origin of the myth as much as possible, and most importantly, see how it holds up
really
to
are
scrutiny.
like a fucked up looking enemy in this game.
Was there really something to it, or was it all just a bunch of hogwash? Let's find out.
Cause El Puerco from Hog. Wait, that's a Wind Waker
Before we
song.
dive into the details behind the rumor, like where it came from and the theories people have about it,
let's
like first lay out the general
too.
premise. So the story goes that at some point during the 2000s, an individual came forward who claimed to have witnessed some kind of rare anomaly in Ocarina of Time, specifically inside Dompe's grave during the race to obtain the hookshot. Supposedly, while chasing Dompe's ghost through the narrow maze, they either took a wrong turn somewhere or perhaps wandered off on purpose. And when they did, they reportedly caught a glimpse of a strange creature with a pig or boar-like appearance.
They made it look really scary.
It didn't seem to match any character or enemy they themselves themselves were familiar with.
Wait, that's really
Confused
cool.
about what they saw, they took to the message boards to report their findings to other players. And based on their testimony and descriptions of the entity, it ultimately received the name it is currently known by, El Puerco, which is Spanish for the pig. What's also worth mentioning is that there's allegedly a second sighting of either the same creature or something similar inside the ruins of Castletown. However, there's no additional information about this event, like whether this took place before or after the sighting in Dompe's grave, or if it was reported by the same person or someone else.
So it sounds like it's maybe like a really rare Redead variant or something, because he's only showing areas that have like only Redeads as their end. Are there other enemies in Dampe's grave? I think it's just Redeads, right? And you can't even, like, most of the time you just hear them. You don't even see them because they're, like, often, like, I think there's, like, those two corners in the big twisty room at the very end where there's Redeads. But besides that, I think there's nothing. So, sorry, I keep talking.
As for
I'm so
other
interested.
details regarding the
I'm trying to
look and
add
behavior
something
of
to
the
this,
creature,
but it's
it
too
is said
good.
to have had a pink or cream-colored skin tone. It did not appear to be hostile and allegedly couldn't even be Z-targeted. It did show signs of movement, albeit very subtle, and depending on the source, it either made sounds very similar to that of a Redead or no sound at all. And well, that's about all
these
we
edits
know.
are really
there
good.
are no
It's
further
scary.
descriptions about its size, its proportions, whether it was bipedal or standing on all fours, or anything else that would give us a more comprehensive picture of what it actually looked like. This isn't helped by the fact that those who claim to have seen it never produced any visual proof, at least not that we know of, which is never a good sign when it comes to the legitimacy of rumors like these. In fact, the story of El Puerco, as presented just now, is not based on just one single source, but rather a collection of claims made by different people.
I was gonna say, is it
several
only one
years.
person?
And this makes it very difficult to pinpoint which parts came from the original witness, you know, the one who started the whole thing, and which aspects were tagged on by others after the fact. Which brings us to the absolute rabbit hole that is the origin of the El Puerco myth. And you'll have to bear with me on this one because it's quite the mouthful. So as far as I can tell, most, if not all of the more detailed descriptions of El Puerco, such as the color of the creature and how it interacted with Link, all stem from the same 2008 GameFAQs thread by a user named Deadpool titled How Do You Beat Dompe? As the title suggests, it starts out as a seemingly sincere request for tips on how to complete the race against Dompe's ghost. However, on page 2, the topic shifts when the OP suddenly claims that during one of his failed attempts, he came face to face with a certain creature resembling a pig. And throughout the rest of the discussion, he goes on to list many of the characteristics I mentioned earlier, like the skin color, the fact that it didn't attack Link, the subtle movement, so on and so forth.
I don't know why that gives me chills, but just the fact that it's like it's clearly not someone just going online and saying like I found a scary thing, like ooh, here's my haunted Majora's Mask been drowned, but it's literally just someone like who is playing the game and then like just casually drops at this like really thing they're not supposed to know, like that they don't probably even realize is crazy. Like they just drop this huge new character dump. That's insane to me.
Rather in-depth account of where inside the grave they actually encountered it, which according to them was somewhere in a corner left of the room with the two giant blue pillars, i.e. this room, which is found in the third section of the maze.
I don't think there's usually a zombie there either.
Now, here's the thing though, assuming that Dead Duel is telling the truth, which I'm definitely skeptical of, but let's just roll with it for a moment, his experience is most certainly not the original sighting that started the whole myth. Because first of all, some of the replies on his post casually mention El Puerco by name.
Oh my god, it's already like
a
meme.
An established rumor at this point. And secondly, those who've been around on GameFAQs since the early days have been adamant that the myth is much older than 2008, with some even placing it as far back as the early 2000s. And after some digging, I can confirm that the rumor does indeed predate Dead Duel's post by at least a couple of years. Using the Wayback Machine, I was able...
What makes me curious, I'm sure he's probably going to say it already, but it's really interesting that it's called El Puerco, and it's not like I don't know if they just made it Spanish because that was like the meme, or if it is like, because like, I don't know why we just like assume every like urban legend is found by like a English speaker, but I don't know why it gives it more authenticity when it's not like an English speaker coming up with this, like, you know, just another hoax. I don't know, I really like how that is in Spanish.
To track down two older topics connected to El Puerco. One created on January 12, 2005 by a user named I'm Canadian titled Strange Creature in Dompe's Grave, parentheses, pic inside.
Oh, they have a pic.
And another even older thread posted by Old
Oh my god, if the
Moist
pic is
in
not there, I'm
August
gonna be so upset.
2004. This one simply titled Strange Creature. And yes, despite the similar titles, they are in fact completely separate topics.
Saying things in Spanish was cool back then, like El Nino. Dude, isn't there apparently like another El Nino? There's like Big El Nino that's apparently gonna be storming soon. I've been watching some streamers and they're literally streaming with like thunder outside their window, so I guess we're getting El Nino too. Maybe El Puerco will come with it.
Since the OP, the creation
know
date,
anymore.
and the ID number found in the URL are different, which wouldn't be the case if they are one and the same. Unfortunately,
doxed
trying
them.
to view the 2005 thread from within leads to an error message,
No,
meaning
of
it hasn't
course.
been indexed by the archive.
Of course,
But
the picture's not
surprisingly,
there.
the one from 2004 can be viewed in full, which, I'm not gonna lie, actually got a big hell yeah out of me because I had been running into error messages and dead URLs for hours up
Wait,
to
does
this point.
a
To
JPEG
add
work?
to my excitement, I remembered some of the old school users saying that there was a thread called Strange Creature, and it's implied that this is where they first heard about the rumor. So, of course, I figured this has to be it then, right? The birthplace of the mythical El Puerco.
Yeah.
But then I actually started reading it and noticed a slight problem. Just like the 2008 topic from Dead Duel, here too folks are already referring to El Puerco
man.
as a pre-established thing people
Maybe
know
he's
about.
real.
In fact, the entire topic basically consists of people clowning on the idea of El Puerco and sharing their own mock-ups as quote-unquote proof of the
Oh my
creature,
god, so that was the
including
old
these two
Ben
gems,
Drowned.
a childlike
Wait,
drawing
no,
of a
go back to the Pumbaa
porcupine
one.
and a screenshot of Kakariko grave.
So that's really good with the Pumbaa. This is like Ben Drowned before Ben Drowned. This is like the anytime someone tries to say anything scary about a game, like, oh, was it Ben in your game? But I'm gonna start telling people El Pumbaa is in your game. That's crazy.
With Pumbaa from The Lion King crudely imposed onto it, the latter of which is also featured on the wiki page I mentioned earlier, and until now was considered to be the only imagery that
I really like that.
But I guess we can add Porcupine Paw to that list now too. So
I like how they
you're
drew it with
welcome.
crayon.
Anyways,
True child
it
on a
seems that
game.
even this old 2004 thread is not where El Puerco found its roots. And even back then, the idea of a pig monster living in Dompe's grave was something people were not just familiar with, but evidently highly
That's so weird. I
skeptical
never
of.
heard of
Though
this.
I did find one hopeful soul.
I
who
spent
was
so
still
much time
waiting
on
for
Zelda
real
forums as a
evidence of
kid.
the anomaly.
Crazy.
Sadly, this is also where the investigation ends, because beyond this point, the trail goes completely cold. It appears that around mid-2004, GameFAQs did a complete overhaul of their website, and as a
Damn,
result,
GameFAQs.
there's a
You
significant
ruined
gap
everything.
in the archives. The only thing Ocarina of Time related you can find prior to 2004 are a few screen caps of the social board in its most
I miss
primitive
forums
form.
like
However,
this.
they only feature posts from the year 2000 at the latest, right
Little
around the time
sponge.
Majora's Mask hit the scene, and none of them mention anything about a monster in Dompe's grave. In other words, if there were even older topics related to El Puerco, which seems to be very likely, they don't appear to have survived, meaning we'll never know for sure who started it or when. The only
That is so sad. I hate how internet preservation just stopped, like, around, like, I feel like 2018 things started, like, getting fucked up on the internet. Everything got commercialized. I don't mean to make it into that, but the other thing I was gonna say is it makes perfect sense that, like, the, like, scary Ocarina of Time rumors kind of died down as soon as Majora's Mask showed up, because everyone was like, oh shit, like, this is the actual scary game. And there's Ben, and there's like all these, there's way scarier material to like dream up haunted urban legends, so nobody needed Ocarina of Time anymore. It was too like cute and friendly for them.
The thing we have to go on now are secondhand testimonies from those who've been on the board since the
Man,
old
bear,
days.
pig.
One of which, a user named RockMFR, did share a few interesting insights. Not only does he place the origin of the rumor even further back to somewhere between 2001
man.
and 2002, they even provide the names of two individuals who, according to them, were involved in the creation of the rumor.
Oh, shoot.
Skepjet17, who allegedly discovered the creature, and Meryl159, who is credited for naming it El Puerco. Of course, I can't just take their
Damn.
word at face value.
Does
and
this guy have the
unfortunately,
answers
I wasn't
then?
able to get a response from them in time for the video, so they could just be making things up or misremembering.
Who would lie on
Then
the
again,
internet
his
in
account
2001?
was created all the way back in 2002, when GameFAQs still looked like this, making him one of the oldest members still active today. So they do at least have the credentials to back it up.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
not to mention that so far, these older users have been right about pretty much everything. Most notably the fact that there was indeed a thread called Strange Creature. technically 2 of them, if you
I'm
also count the one from 2005.
upset that we don't have
Pair
this.
that with the fact that the 2004 thread clearly isn't the origin point, and I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that El Puerco is based on something even older, possibly from the early 2000s, as RockMFR suggests. It's even been speculated that the whole thing didn't even start on Game Boy.
Oh, I remember this. This is the exact page that I was reading from. Yeah, I remember this. Wait, I think this is from Zelda Universe, if I remember, because this was part of the, like, how to get to the Triforce and the Light Temple, like, hoax, I think. Unless this is like something else and they grabbed photos from this for that hoax?
Facts. And instead was carried over from some other now defunct Zelda forum, which could explain why there are no records of a Sketjet 17
I miss all
or
the Zelda
Meryl
forums.
159 anywhere on the site. Not in any of the topics, nor in the community database, which does still list some of the other old school members like I'm Canadian and Old Noise Tank. So maybe they were never on GameFAQs to begin with. And the OG sighting did indeed originate from some other message board.
It's gotta be like Zelda Universe or something.
Next to impossible since, well, there were a lot of Zelda forums back then.
Oh my god, Zelda Dungeon! Wait, can I go back to... I need to go back to that one.
Taking that one down would be next to impossible since...
Oh my god, you guys. It wasn't this, but I remember Ganon's Tower.
There were a lot of...
Zelda Dungeon. That was one of the ones I was so frequent on in the forums. I think this was the one with the forums. Or was it something else? It was one of those. It was either Zelda Dungeon or Zelda Power or something, and it had like a really great forum community. I feel like that was my first like internet friends and stuff. That's the first time I discovered like all these like, you know, RPs and like, you know, Jeopardy games and stuff like that. It was so cool, and I'm sad every day that these are gone, and especially now that I'm learning that one of the coolest, possibly real creepypasta urban legends is now lost media. Oh, lost media, but like real lost media, not just media that someone doesn't have on YouTube. Like, it makes me so sad that we can't see what El Puerco looks like.
Zelda forums back then, dozens of them, and since this whole rabbit hole already took up way more time than I anticipated, I decided to throw in the towel and conclude that the origin of El Puerco is most likely lost forever. Which finally brings us to the next part of the mystery, because if you're at all familiar with the more technical aspects of OCARINA, then your BS detector has likely been going off like crazy for the past few minutes, and rightfully so. Ocarina of Time has been picked apart on pretty much every level imaginable.
Yeah, we've literally done enemy randomizer.
If there was something in the game that resembles anything like what's been described about El Puerco, we would have found some trace of it, like a character model or some other asset.
Yeah,
but as
it's such a good,
there's nothing here.
like, model.
The only thing that comes close to a monster with pig-like features are moblins, and Ganon, of course. But I think it's safe to say that they would have been well known about, even in the early 2000s. In fact, your first moblin encounter is on the way to the Forest Temple, right after getting the hookshot from Dompe.
Yeah,
and we
you
know
couldn't
for a
miss
fact
it.
that there are no moblins inside the grave. Or Ganon, for that
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
In light of this, the most logical option is, of course, that the whole thing was simply made up. A joke by a bunch
really
of
good Water
kids on
Temple
an old
remix.
internet forum, which got expanded upon and kept alive by others in the years after. And mind you, this is the main consensus. Most people agree that it was likely just another false rumor, like so many others in Ocarina.
No, don't do that.
Especially when you consider the complete lack of evidence, like video recordings or even a screenshot of the supposed creature. But as I already alluded to in the intro, there are people who see it differently, so let's talk about the alternative. Some have suggested that the person who first reported El Puerco, let's just call them Sketjet for the sake of convenience, may have experienced an unusual bug or glitch involving one of the 4 readheads that are present down here. The idea is that since we know for a fact that there are no assets in the game that could account for what Sketjet allegedly witnessed, the most feasible option, besides the whole thing being a hoax, is that they simply mistook an existing enemy for something else. And since readheads are the only enemies inside the grave,
and they are like
makes
hunched
sense
over
that they
in
would be
this.
the culprit. Now, of course, readheads don't look anything like the pig monster El Puerco.
Oh, but they said they saw it in Dampe's grave, which is it's a racetrack and you're timed. So like, remember we were doing that for the randomizer the other day, like a month ago. But like, we were trying to collect items in there, and you really only have a little bit of time. You have like 20 seconds maybe to like check a couple hallways because the timer's gonna kill you really fast. So it would make sense if you saw something for it to immediately like, you'd either die or you'd be so obsessed with just getting to the end that you would just kind of see it in a blink, and you could either misunderstand what it is, or if there is like a visual bug, you would only see it for a second, and it would be like your brain says Pumbaa, and that's what it is.
Puerco is described as, and it's kind of hard to believe that they would have been mistaken as such. After all, if this took place in the early to mid 2000s, Ocarina of Time would have been a couple of years old already, and even Majora's Mask would have been out at that point. Just like with the Moblins, people on forums like these would have been well aware of
I don't like these HD Rita
textures. They look
textures.
like. So even if Sketchet himself
They're
was
scary.
somehow oblivious to them prior to getting the hookshot, which I definitely doubt, surely someone else would have gone down into the grave to check for themselves, report back what it actually was, and the mystery would have been solved right then and there. Unless, of course, Sketchet saw something no one else could. Something like a glitch that affected this enemy in particular and made them
That would be
appear
so
different than
cool.
usual. And as far-fetched as that may sound, there's actually some merit to this idea. Games can do some pretty wacky stuff on occasion.
No,
Not
I
just
love
regular
weird
bugs due to
glitches.
mistakes in the programming, but also abnormalities caused by hardware issues, like when the physical game or system has been compromised in some way. Things like water damage, dust, scratches.
Like that Mario speedrun, which apparently got like they got a super frame perfect trick because of like, what was it, radiation from space? Was that a hoax, or was that like, there's something like that where apparently like some meteorite or like some radio wave that like flew in from space like hit the N64 while someone was speedrunning Mario, and then like teleported Mario to the star, and like it's now an impossible to beat record on that specific star. I could be wrong. I remember hearing that, but that might have been a hoax. But I remember the speedrun trick is real and no one has been able to replicate it, so there's some weird thing that affected that. So maybe this guy got radio waves in his Dampe race.
Broken or dirty contact points, even something as simple as the cartridge not being seated properly or bumping into the console can cause all sorts of weird things to occur. In fact, manipulating the cartridge, also known as tilting, is something people have done on purpose.
Oh, I used to
just
do that,
see
yeah.
what kind of crazy stuff
I used
will
to do that
happen,
to
or
skip,
past certain obstacles during a
to skip
speedrun.
Kokiri
Though, mind you,
Forest.
this can damage your game or system, so it's definitely not recommended.
Oh, it
For
could.
those who enjoy this type
I did that
of
as a kid all the
experimentation
time.
and, don't want to ruin their hardware.
That's
there's
what I
even
used to
special
do.
plugins and custom builds of certain emulators that can simulate cartridge tilting and other types of code corruption.
Wait,
and the
that's
results
awesome.
can be unpredictable, to say the least. Now, obviously, plugins like these were designed to artificially mess up the game as much as you want, so it's not entirely comparable to the real thing. But there have been genuine cases of some very strange things happening during a play session.
That's really scary.
Including certain character models or objects moving in weird ways, or getting all jumbled up and distorted beyond recognition. What's more is that these anomalies can be incredibly
I like
rare and
that.
circumstantial, to the extent that some have never been replicated since, and even the cause is still being debated. As such, it is statistically possible
love
that
stuff
out
like
of the
that.
millions of people playing Ocarina back then, one of them encountered a rare phenomena in which a readout didn't load in properly or something, resulting in the character model getting twisted or contorted in such a way that it looked like some kind of pig monster from a
That
certain
would make
distance or
sense.
angle, especially if they only got a brief glimpse of it on one of those old CRT or LCD
They're
screens.
not old.
You know what? I could even see how the mask of the readout could feasibly be mistaken for a pig nose, with the two eye holes acting
I'm
like
trying to squint. I
nostrils.
think I see that.
Incidentally, and I swear I didn't plan for this, as I was recording footage for the video, I actually had my own weird experience with the
Wait,
readouts
that's
inside the
scary.
grave, where part of the mask or a head or whatever got all stretched out and stuck to Link's character model.
Oh my
like a rubber
God.
band. And I also noticed some kind of tiny object floating
He's literally
above their
making
left
it El
shoulder,
Puerco
which I'm
happen
pretty
on
sure
accident.
isn't supposed to be there. I have no idea what caused this, and it never happened again during subsequent recordings.
No,
so
sorry, that's insane. That's insane. Is that a bit for the video? Because that's insane. If he's looking for like a creepy, like haunted Redead glitch that no one's ever seen, and then when he makes a video essay on it, he suddenly gets his face to like morph into a pig face. It's already pig looking. If I was a kid and I was running fast and I saw it for like a split second, I might say Pumbaa. That's like, sorry, that's really scary to me. I don't know why. I think it's when an old game that you have seen so many times, so you are so familiar with how it is, starts acting up in such a like specific way. It feels like it's intentional, which makes it feel like Ben is inside it, even though I was already making fun of Ben. He's inside the game.
Anyone knows what's going on here or has experienced something similar, be sure to let me know. Anyway, if Sketchet's testimony was genuine, then the readout glitch theory would be the most plausible explanation for what they saw. And it could even account for some other things, like why the only other reported sighting of El Puerco was in Castletown, a location where readouts are also the only enemies present, and it's on the way to Dampe's grave if you start from the Temple of Time. Again, the idea that it was just a kid making things up is still the more likely answer. But because the original witness report has been lost, we can't say anything for sure. In fact, as it stands, both options, the hoax and the glitch theory, have about the same amount of evidence going for them. That is to say, no evidence at all. Now, some may find the lack of proof, like a video or a screenshot, kinda sus, and while this is definitely justified, it is worth considering that this was, allegedly, the early 2000s, well before consoles had a built-in screen cap feature, or you could just take a picture with your phone and
yeah, it was really hard
instantly.
to take pictures of your screen.
And while N64 emulators did exist, the vast majority of people still played games like these the old-fashioned way, which is still true. Also,
the old thread, it said pic inside, but the thread was dead. Like, the thread was not preserved. So there's a real photo inside the original thing, which, so it's not like there's no evidence. It's like, it almost makes it so that there's better evidence of it being true because of the fact that someone posted a screenshot that was lost, and there's not like people saying, like, there's not, I feel like there'd be evidence of people making fun of that guy for his shitty fake screenshot, but it seems like people are just like, El Puerco. So like, I feel like there's something real there. Maybe I'm just saying shit, but like, I want to believe it's real.
Today. There's also the fact that you can't just explore Dompe's grave to your heart's content. Not unless you hack the game and manipulate
the this is what I was saying.
Under normal circumstances, you're on a pretty strict timer constantly. And once Dompe reaches the door to the next section, you only have a few seconds before Link voids out and is transported back to the entrance.
And it goes,
even if you skip past Dompe somehow without triggering
He's
the
cheating!
Maze, it still wouldn't help. Because the parts of the maze that feature the readats will not load until Dompe goes through the door. And once he does, it also unloads the section before it. So you can't even backtrack by clipping through the door in the hookshot room, for example. Factor in the possibility that the glitch was a one-time occurrence that couldn't be replicated on subsequent tries, and I think it's actually quite reasonable that Sketjet never produced any evidence of the encounter. Even if they wanted to, it may not have been possible for them. Now, the same excuse cannot be applied to the other sighting by DeadDuel though, since his post is from 2008, when YouTube and iPhones existed. But again, if we pretend for a moment that no one tells lies on the internet, and he just so happened to encounter the same glitch, then the readat theory would be able to account for some of the stuff they reported also. For starters, there is a readat in the corner left of the room with the blue pillars, exactly where he claims he saw El Puerco after wandering off. The inability to lock onto the creature could have something to do with the fact that readats have a much shorter Z targeting range than other enemy types. So much so that you almost have to get right up in their face to make the arrow appear,
it feels
or
so
even draw
believable.
their aggro for that matter. And speaking of getting up in their face, while messing around with these guys, I also found out for the first time in 25 years that they are apparently completely blind. Meaning as long as you don't run or swing your sword, they won't attack you or even notice your presence. Which could explain why, in their experience, the creature didn't appear to be hostile.
Wait, I had no idea.
Lastly, there's the claim that the entity was moving ever so slightly. And this too can easily be explained since readats do have that weird twitching going on. Something that would likely be visible at all times, even when the model is distorted. Now, with all that being said, do I actually think DeadDuel was telling the truth? I don't know, but
they have to be telling the truth.
It's much more likely that he was simply a copycat. Someone who knew
no,
about the
El Puerco myth
and tried to breathe new life into it. I mean, why else would he choose GameFAQs as the one and only place to report his findings? Could it be because this message board in particular is one of the few places on the internet where the myth is somewhat famous and still brought up from time to time? I'll leave that up to you to decide.
I guess that does make sense.
As for the elusive Sketjet 17 and their alleged sighting, well, your guess is as good as mine. As I pointed out, there have been reports of some very unique and legitimate anomalies, and if you're not familiar with glitches and how these games work on a technical level, these reports can easily come off as fake, or a bad attempt at a creepypasta or something, even when they're not. At the same time, as far as the track record goes, the vast majority of Ocarina of Time related rumors did turn out to be false in the end.
That's why I need this one to be real.
People have their reservations.
I need
it's
this
also
Miyamoto.
clear that the lore and technicalities behind the sighting have evolved quite a bit over the past decades, as people repeated the story to each other like a game of telephone, and grafted their own ideas and claims onto
because you have to beat them with
usually
Deku
without
Nuts now.
citing a source. For example, some of the believers in the glitch theory allege that the readat bug was only present on certain copies of the game. game, like the first 50 copies ever made, or
Oh
that it
my
was
God.
unique to the gold cartridges. However, none of them clarify where they got this information from.
That's
So
always
who
how they
knows
go,
if there's
though.
any truth to it.
That's just like
As for the
a
mythical
staple
El
for every
Puerco,
rumor.
well, there's definitely no pig monster stalking the hallways of Dompe's grave. If there
Unless-
was, we would have found it by now. But there
Is
is a
something gonna jump
chance,
out at me?
however small that may be, that it was based on a genuine sighting, which is a fascinating prospect to me and, in my opinion, is more interesting than the actual myth itself. In that sense, El Puerco
It's
is
still
kind of
really
like
scary.
the Bigfoot or Loch Ness monster of the Zelda universe. Unlikely to be real, but possibly based on sincere reports of something that seemed unexplainable.
Yeah, what if it
But
is
let me
real?
know what you think.
What if he is there?
Is El Puerco based on something real, like a glitch, or was it
Cool.
all a bunch of baloney and nothing more?
A
I'm
cool
also curious
outro.
to know how many of you were already familiar with the rumor prior to this video, and if
Yeah,
you
I'd
were,
never heard
how,
of
when,
it.
and where you heard about it. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. A big thanks to my Patreons, channel members, and Discord mods as usual, and I hope to see you all next time.
That's a sick outro also. Oh my god. Damn, that was really cool.